Hello and welcome to episode 3 of our Trainz route building tutorial series. In this series I'm using TRS 19, but most things will also apply to other Trainz versions. In this video I'm covering picklists, filters and the download station, also known as the DLS. Let's start by loading the route we've created in the previous videos. So, picklists are custom lists of assets that you can create yourself to be able to find certain assets more easily. To access picklists, click on the Display menu button at the top of the screen, then click on Show Search Filter. As you can see at the bottom of this window, a default picklist has already been put in place for you. However, if you would like to use multiple or separate picklists, for example, I like to use separate picklists for each route that I make. So to do this, click on the arrow beside the picklist name, and then click Create Picklist. Now give the picklist a name. For this example, I'm going to give the picklist the same name as the route, so Tutorial Creek Railroad. Then click the check mark to confirm. As you can see, the picklist you've just created has already been loaded for you. To put assets into this picklist, you first need to select them in one of the panels on the right-hand side of the screen. For this example, I'm going to go to the Objects panel, which is the third from the top, and I'm going to drag an asset out of the list over into the blank space below the picklist name. As you can see, this asset has now been added to the picklist. So, if on the right-hand side I select a different asset, or I close the tab, and I want to quickly return to the asset I have put in my picklist, I simply click on the asset, and I'm brought right back to it. Now at the moment, the picklist is in the list view. If you click on the arrow, you can change this to Display Thumbnail View. Here the thumbnails are a bit larger, but there are no names displayed. I personally like to use the list view. To change picklists, click on the arrow, hover over Change Picklists, and select one of the picklists that you've created. To remove an asset from a picklist, simply click and drag and release it outside. To delete a picklist completely, click on the arrow and then click Delete Picklist, then select the picklist you wish to delete and click Confirm. This action cannot be undone. Next, let's talk about filters. Filters allow you to narrow down the selection of assets you see based on what filters you have selected. To add a new filter, click on the plus symbol. Now you've added a new filter. The type of filter can be selected by clicking here and choosing one out of this drop-down. As you can see, there are quite a few, but you'll realistically only ever use a few of them. For example, if you only want to see assets that were created by a certain user, you can select Author and then type in the author here. If I now go over to one of the asset panels on the right-hand side of the screen, for example the Trainz tab, which is the bottom one, you can see there are only a few assets listed here. You will likely not see these assets here if you recreate this exactly, as I've downloaded these from the download station. Now, if I remove this filter by clicking on the X beside the filter, you will see that the list on the right-hand side has suddenly become a lot longer. Now, you can also have a combination of multiple filters at the same time. So let's add our author filter back again. Now, if the list of assets created by this author that are currently installed is still too long, and I know that I only want to see, for example, the thrall cars here, this one and this one and this one, I can add another filter by clicking on the plus symbol on the left-hand side, and this time let's stick with name. If I type in thrall, you can see it only displays these 3 thrall assets that are made by the author Dave Snow. You can save the currently set filter configuration by setting the filters how you like, and then clicking the Save button. Give the filter name, for example, Test1, and then if you click on the arrow at the top of this left window, you can see first of all filters that you've used recently, and then other filters that are saved. Some saved filters will come with Trainz, but your own custom filters will also be here. To delete a filter, click on Delete a Filter, select which filter to delete, in this case Test 1, and click the check mark. Now, you might think the filter hasn't been deleted because the filters are still applied, but if you click on the arrow, you can see the filter preset is no longer here. If you wish to remove all currently applied filters, click on the Clear button. Now let's talk about the download station. To access the download station, close Trainz and click on Manage Content. As I mentioned in a previous video, this Content Manager window that you've just opened is currently displaying all installed assets. This is because the filter system that I showed you previously also applies to the Content Manager. If you look up in the top left corner of this window, you can see Filter Installed. This will only show assets that are currently installed. If you want to see all assets that are available on the download station, click on Download Station. Now this might take a moment to load because there are literally hundreds of thousands of user-created assets on the download station, and that is the download station's strength. The download station is a platform where users of Trainz can share their own created content for free. So in most cases, you will be able to find whatever you're looking for. At the moment, this window is currently displaying 341,593 assets, all on the download station. So, if we want to narrow this down a bit, the first thing we can do is in the top right corner of the window, you can type a name into the search field. So for example, if we wanted a GWR locomotive, we could type in GWR. But now we run into a problem, because there are still 852 assets being displayed that contain GWR in the name. As you can see, this includes rolling stock as well, for example, these trucks. So we can narrow this down the same way that we did in the surveyor, by adding another filter. To add a filter to the currently selected filters, click on the little arrow at the top left corner of this window to open a drop-down of all the currently applied filters. All these filters you can see are what make up the download station filter that is currently selected. To add another filter, click on a plus symbol on the right-hand side of this window, and as you can see, the assets have all vanished. This is because the filter we just added is of the type category, which you can see here, which means we want to filter a specific category of asset, and the category which is selected is achievement. Since there are no achievements that have GWR in the name on the download station, no assets are displayed. Now, we wanted to find a GWR locomotive, so we want category, which is right, but instead of achievement, let's select locomotive. As you can see, only locomotives are now being displayed. But these are still quite a few locomotives. In fact, they are 133 locomotives. In case you were wondering, you can read that at the bottom of the screen. So, is there a way we can narrow this down further? Yes and no. In some cases, if you know exactly what you're looking for, you might be able to narrow things down by narrowing down the name. So if you add another layer by clicking the plus symbol on the right side of the screen by the filters, and you select the category name, then you can type in an additional part of the name. So for example, if I type in O-6-O, O being 0, then you can see it only displays assets through the filters we've selected, whose names contain GWR, that are installed on the download station, that are of the category locomotive, and whose names also contain 0-6-0. If you're wondering, the 0-6-0 is a wheel configuration used in British steam locomotives. Now, let's download one of these assets. Let's try this one. An important thing to note before downloading an asset is the asset's upload date. This is the bottommost thing listed here beside this asset. This particular asset was uploaded on the 26th of May 2019, so it's fairly recent. As the download station is shared between most Trainz versions, there are assets on here that are as old as the oldest Trainz version that supported the download station. So there will be assets here from the early 2000s. Some of these assets will still work fine in the newest Trainz versions, but some assets won't. So, to download this locomotive, right-click the asset, and then click Download. As you can see, a downloading window has appeared. If you click the little arrow on this new window, you can show more details. As you can see here, Trainz is currently downloading 2 of 8 assets. But we only selected 1 asset. Well, that's because in Trainz, assets have other assets that they depend on. These are dependencies. So for example, this locomotive has the dependency of the asset GWR Armstrong 850 class engine spec. This is just a thing the locomotive needs to work. So Trainz will also download these assets from the download station. Now, if you've ever tried downloading something from the download station, you will have noticed that it will take a long time. This is because, although you can download anything for free from the download station, Trainz limits the download speed to about 10 kilobytes a second. You can increase this by buying a first-class ticket on the Trainz website, which will last for a certain amount of time depending on which option you've purchased. Now let's skip ahead until this download has finished. Okay, 36 minutes have passed and the download has just finished. As you can see, the window says done, 0 errors and 0 warnings. Let's close this window. As you can see, the locomotive we've downloaded is no longer being displayed here. This is because its status has changed from available for download to installed from the download station. Now, let's see how to find this locomotive in Trainz. Go to the launcher and click Start Trainz. Now, let's load the route we've been working on. And now let's go to the Trainz tab, which is the bottom tab on the right-hand side of the screen. Now, this list is quite long, so it can be difficult to find certain things. So, let's use the filter system. Let's go to the display menu, click Show Search Filters, click on the top arrow, and click Today. This filter preset shows all assets that were installed or modified today. As you can see, the locomotive is here. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful.